Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this is another Dare Diary, and of course for a while my Dare Diaries will be surrounded around this topic until things get better. So I've come to a decision. I have, but before I tell you guys that decision, I want to explain how I came to this decision. I'm in a better place. That's good, right? So I'm the type of person that I believe in signs. I believe that things happen in our lives and we're given signs to kind of help us pick the right path. Now, sometimes we may not understand those signs, or we may interpret the signs wrong, or we may ignore the signs, but we are given little hints and things along the way. I believe in God, so I do believe that sometimes He sends messages in different forms to try and get a message across. And now it's up to us whether we decide to listen or not. So, with that being said, I told you guys in my first video, if you haven't watched it, please go ahead and watch it. But I told you guys I called. I know it sounds low, but just turn up the volume, I guess. So, sorry. I called 3 different abortion clinics. 3. And I gave myself a deadline. I also emailed them too. And I gave myself a deadline for when I could hear back from them. And I would take it from there. So my deadline came up. And I didn't hear from not even one. Not even one. No one called me back. And like I said, I don't know if it's because I said I want to do the pill procedure, and so they were like, oh, that's no money, we're not doing it. I don't know, but none of them called me back, not even one. So because I didn't get my call back, I took it as a sign. And that morning I remember I woke up and I just started crying. And I started crying because I was crying for the journey that I'm about to embark on. I was crying for the transition that I'm gonna have to go through. I was crying for my future. And I was crying for the unknown. I sucked up my tears and I said, okay, I gotta put on my big girl pants and I gotta figure this out, you know? So here we go. I got up that morning, I realized what was what, and I automatically sent a text, a WhatsApp message to my 2 sisters who are in, well, we were in a sister group, so I could just send one message and they both could get it. I sent them a message, and I sent my dad a message, and I sent my mom a message. And I pretty much just said, hey, FYI, I'm gonna have another baby. I'm sorry if I disappointed you, but this is what I gotta do, kind of thing, something along that gist. So my mom didn't respond to that text message. My sister that's older than me by 7 years didn't respond at that time to that message. My sister that's older than me by 10 years responded. And she pretty much said, she basically like ripped into me and said that I was letting my baby father control me by always having me get pregnant. You know, I was barely managing. I'm barely managing with the kids that I do have, you know, with keeping the house tidy and all of that stuff. And yeah, pretty much she was said goodbye. She was like, well, then I guess it's goodbye. Now, she was not wrong in what she said. I don't know about the him controlling me part, because like I always said, even if I had 10 kids for this man, at the end of the day, if he needs to walk, he needs to walk. Nothing's gonna hold me in, or if I have to walk, I'm gonna walk. Nothing's gonna hold me there. Whether I have 10 kids, 20 kids, 30 kids, 1 kid, it doesn't matter. So that part I don't agree with. But with her, with talking about me barely managing with the kids, I completely agree with that. It's hard. It's hard, you know. In regards to my house being tidy, my house is not always tidy. Like, I'm doing better now because of this diet I'm on. Oh, I'm gonna tell you guys about that in another video. But I'm doing better now. Like, I'm finding now I'm like in a better place, and I'm on top of things. Like, I get up in the morning and I'm sweeping, I'm mopping, you know what I mean? I'm tidying up, I'm calling after the kids, make sure you guys pick up this, do that, do that. I'm like way better now. But coming up to this point, it was hard. Like, with one child, it was okay, but then I had the 2, which that was fine too. But then I had the 3. And then I like hit rock bottom, guys. Like, we end up getting bed bugs. Like, I end up throwing out all my furniture, sleeping on the floor. Like, it was a horrible time. And I'll tell you guys about that in a different video. But it was a horrible time. And it was hard. It was hard for me. Like, when I was sleeping on the floor, when we first, I'll tell you guys that story in a different one. It's gonna make this too long. I'll tell that in a different video. But point of the matter is, I believe that after I had my 3rd child, I think I went into a depression. Or while I had my 3rd child, like, not really a deep depression, but I think I felt like I started feeling down. Like, I don't know, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't have any energy. And then you have to remember, I was pregnant. Then I'm going through the emotions or whatever, the after pregnancy, and then I'm pregnant again, and then I have to go through that after pregnancy, then I was pregnant again. So, and when I was pregnant with the 2 girls, you couldn't get me to do anything. Like, my baby father would call me lazy. Like, it was horrible because it was just too much. Like, I just didn't have any energy. Like, I had no energy. I would get up and say, okay, I'm gonna wash the dishes. I'd be washing the dishes and I'd be like, I have to sit down. I have to get a chair. I have to do this. I can't finish anything. I do one thing and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I'm back in bed. Or, it was horrible. It was horrible. My pregnancies, being pregnant, I had no energy. Like, I was drained. Now, I'm anemic. Like, I've always been anemic. But during the pregnancies, it was just worse. And my house was a reflection of that. Like, it was horrible. My house was a pigsty. I hated it. Like, I hated going home. I thought it looked like a Junkyard Jones. Anyways, so she's not wrong about that. She was not wrong about what she said. But, you know, you would think family would, you could say stuff, but you wouldn't think that they would disown you or leave you hanging. And with my sister, who's older than me of 10 years, over the last couple of years, I thought we got closer because we both have multiple children. You know, we're both working moms. Like, I felt like we connected. Like, I would talk to her, I would turn to her for advice with the kids, you know, and stuff like that. And I thought we had a stronger relationship. I actually thought I was getting closer to her than I was with my sister that was 7 years. And me and my sister that was 7 years, we used to party together and everything. So I thought we were pretty close too, but we used to fight all the time. So I don't know. But the sister of 10 years, I just thought we had a really close relationship. But this actually showed me that obviously it wasn't that close. Obviously I was in denial. I was lost. I didn't realize what was what. And maybe obviously our relationship wasn't that close because I haven't spoken to her since that day. So I can send her like a message or something. She'll respond back with like a 1-word answer, but she doesn't engage in conversation, which is fine. I don't beg friend. So if she decides that she's better off without me and my family in her life, then what can I do, right? And that's pretty much that. So I think it was a few days later or something. I don't know how long it was, but my other sister finally responded. And she basically said, you know, I just have a question to ask you. what are your aspirations in life? So when she asked me that question, I automatically took it as a slap in the face. They didn't know at the time, but when I was talking to that day when I sent that message to them, like, I was in tears. And when my sister responded to me, I was even in more tears. It was hard. It was hard for me to hear them say bye, or hear my one sister say bye. The other sister who came and said, what are your aspirations in life? I pretty much told her to buzz off in more unfriendly terms. And the reason why I did that, because I took that kind of like a slap in the face. Like, how do I say this? Like, as if she's trying to say, well, you're not amounting to anything by having these kids. You're not getting anywhere by having these kids. Like, that's pretty much how I took it. Like, you don't have any goals in life? All you want to do is sit down and have picnic? Well, yeah, do it yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I took it. And it was hard. Like, because I've always pushed to become something great. You know, I wanted to own my own talk show. And I went to school for broadcasting, for radio and television and film, so I can be an on-air host. And then I went through that experience with City and Tracy Moore and whatever. Or it was horrible. And then I decided, yeah, I don't want to do that. But, you know, I always thought that I would be the child who put my mom up in her house, paid off my sister's bills, you know, set them on the right path, that I would be financially wealthy. And it just never worked out. Like, it just never happened for me. But I never pictured myself with kids. I didn't even picture myself with one. So now to look at and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to have 5, it's hard. And I feel like they're just pushing it in my face that I haven't amounted to anything great. And it's hard to think about not being successful, because I've always thought I would be a very successful person. You know, I wanted to be a doctor at one point. I thought I was going to become a psychologist and own my own practice. And then when I was in high school and they were like, oh, that's 10 years. I was like, 10 years in school? Oh, hell no, forget it. And I threw it all out because I was intimidated by the amount of years they said I had to be in school. I was stupid. I would have been in my practice by now. But anyhow, so yeah, I had to deal with that. And my dad responded the same day and said to me, I'm so pissed off right now. Come on, man, look into yourself. You must do better. And something along those lines. And it was weird. It was so weird because I went to go respond to him. I went to go respond to him, and something came over me and said, don't. This is not your fight. And I didn't get it because it said, don't respond to him. This is not your fight. And it happened to me twice. I picked up the phone to respond and it came back, don't. This is not your fight. And I didn't respond to my dad. Till this day, I haven't responded to my dad. And my dad has not picked up the phone or text or anything to say boo to me. He hasn't said a word. My dad's a very grudgeful man. He holds grudges like there's no tomorrow. So I don't see him coming around anytime soon. But who knows? The thing that I find so funny is, like, when my sister said, oh, you know, like, your baby father's trying to control you. I thought it was so funny because if you feel that your sister's in a situation where she's being controlled, which I could never be controlled by anybody. I'm way too strong-headed, strong-willed, headstrong, stubborn, whatever you want to call it, to let anybody control me. But if you felt that your sister was in a dire need, that she was being controlled by somebody, would that be the time to turn your back on her? Like, I'm not throwing any shade to my sister. Like, my sister, I understand where she's coming from. Like, you know, she's in a position where she feels like I'm in a bad spot and she doesn't want to sit back and watch it happen. Like, you know what I mean? She doesn't want to sit back and watch me suffer, type of thing. And I get that and I respect that and I understand it. But at the same time, I'm thinking, at what point do you turn around and be like, I can't turn my back on this person because they're going to need me. They're going to fall hard. They're going to need me. I don't know. Just my own personal thoughts. I could be wrong. So that was what happened when I told everybody that I was going to go through with this. For myself, I was feeling the, you know, morning sickness. I was feeling the low energy. I was going through all of that. And I started researching, and my energy levels have come up. And I'll tell you guys that in a different video of what I did. But that's good news. So I finally picked up myself and I went to the doctors. I went to the doctors. Now, me and my doctor have a very open relationship. Like, I'm straight up with him and, you know, we're pretty cool. So when he see me, he's like, this has to be wrong. You're not here for a pregnancy. And I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, same guy? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I thought you said you were done. Yeah. My doctor asked me if I have help at home. And I was like what? Like, you know? And he said, for an example, when his wife had his 2 daughters, she would pump a lot. So what would happen is that he would stay up with the girls during the night and feed them and take care of them so his wife could sleep. And therefore during the day, because she had 2 kids, separate times, right? So therefore during the day when she's up with them, she had energy and she was okay. And then I guess he would go to work, so he would sacrifice his sleep for that or whatever. And that was his way of helping out because he couldn't be there during the day. I can't think of any stories like that. My baby father got my girls into the habit of being swung to bed, so he rocks them to bed, and I was like, I ain't doing that. I'm not rocking nobody. So he'll rock them to bed. Yeah, he that was his duty. He did it. The one thing that came to mind, and this is what I told my doctor, is I had my son, which was my 4th child, and one night I was struggling. He was 3 months. And I was struggling. I couldn't get him to sleep. Like, no matter what I did, this kid just didn't want to go to bed. Like, he just didn't want to go to bed. And this guy, I don't know where he was coming from, but he went out and he came back in and he stood by, like, so say there's a doorway. And so he stood over here in the doorway where he thought I couldn't see him. And I seen him standing there and I was like, what is this? What is he doing? Like, what is he doing? So I stayed there and I took care of I'm trying to deal with the baby. And then I guess when he thought I turned my head where I wouldn't see him, he ran. Like, literally ran past the doorway into the room where he sleeps. And I was like, hold on, what was the point of that? Quiet like a mouse, eh? Quiet. Like, I tell you, this guy tippy toes or something. So I waited a few minutes, and then I got up, and I went in the room, and I said, what was the point of that? And he said to me, I didn't want you to give me the baby. I don't think he realized at the time, but that was a slap in my face. That was a slap in my face. Because my son was 3 months, and I could count on one hand the amount of times I've ever asked for his help to take care of our son. And I remember being so mad, and I stormed out and went back into the room. And at that point, I said, you know what? Like, F him. Like, this is me. Like, this is my job. Like, this is my child. I'll take care of him. Just like I took care of my first child by myself, I'll go ahead and take care of my children. Like, what? This is what I do. This is what I do. I take care of my kids. I don't rely on nobody. I take care of my kids. And I told my doctor this story. my doctor turned to me and said, you don't have to go through with this. You don't have to have this child. I can book you an appointment. And I said to him, I do. And he's like, why? Because he's like, you're obviously distraught. And at this time, he figured I was about 10 weeks. And he's like, at 10 weeks pregnant, look at you. You're still, you're distraught. You're like you're crying about the situation. That's not good. What's going to happen when the kid's actually born? I told him I do. And he said, why? And I said, I feel like this is my cross to bear. And he says, so you feel like you should be punished? And I said, no, I don't think it's punishment. I don't think it was punishment when Jesus carried the cross. I don't look at it as punishment. It was his job. That's why he came to earth. That's what he was supposed to do. For some reason, I'm supposed to have 5 kids. Why? I don't know. But this is my cross to bear. It's something I have to do. I don't have a choice. I have to do this. This is my cross to bear. I have to do this. There's a reason. Everything happens for a reason, and there's a reason. So, he gave me a paperwork to do my IPS. When you're pregnant, you have to do an IPS. If you're going to do one, you have to do an IPS between 11 weeks and 13 weeks and 6 days. You can't pass 13 weeks and 6 days. They won't do it past that time. And it's because when they do the IPS, they're looking at the skull, and they're looking at the distance between the last line and then some next line in the skull, and they measure that to see if your child's gonna have like some kind of abnormality, like Down syndrome or something. And the same day you do your IPS, you have to do blood work, and you have to do them on the same day. And then he also gave me another paper for blood work, and then he also gave me an ultrasound paper to do a dating ultrasound, so we could actually see how far along I was actually. So, and then of course he told me, remember, you don't have to do this. And he's like, I would like to believe that our God is a forgiving God, and that he's not going to punish people for making mistakes, and that he will forgive you. I said, I'll think about it. And I left his office. When I left his office, I went straight to the ultrasound place to do the dating ultrasound. So they were able to take me in the same day. I couldn't get footage. For some reason in Canada, people are not accepting of the camera. They're all like, no camera, no camera. So no camera, fine. I went in and they said, okay, you have 20 minutes to drink as much water as you possibly can, and then we will put you in for your dating ultrasound. So I sat there, and they have their little machine, you know, with the water and whatever. And I started drinking. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm the only one, but when you have to drink so much water like that, like I get to the point where I feel like I have to puke. And it's like, oh, the water is like sickening, like I want to puke, and I have to be like, okay, hold it, like calm down, like, you know, horrible feeling. Tell me if you feel like that. Tell me in the comments if anybody else has went through that experience, having to do ultrasounds and having to drink all that water. Anyways, so I went in and I did the dating ultrasound. And I did that, and she says I was less, like 9 weeks and some, I don't remember the exact days, but 9 weeks and something. And there was a heartbeat, and the child's fully formed, like little limbs and stuff, like nothing definite, like you can't see fingers or stuff like that, but you could see a baby, like you could see a baby, and they have a heartbeat. So how was I supposed to get rid of that? Anyhow, that is my update. So if you guys want to still follow me through this journey, now that you know what I'm gonna do, please definitely hit the subscribe button, like on this video, because I've made a decision. And definitely go ahead and leave me comments. I also want to say thank you to everybody who has sent me messages, personal messages, regarding my video. People have been very uplifting and very encouraging. And I appreciate that. I really do. And I just want to say thank you guys for the kind words and the encouragement and everything that you guys said. It did not go on deaf ears. I heard you. And I appreciate you taking the time out to reach out to me and let me know how you felt or what you thought. So with that being said, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Ciao.